On a crisp January evening in 2018, the residents of Toronto's gay village were shaken to their core as the bodies of two more men were discovered buried in planters at the homes of Bruce McArthur's clients. The news sent shockwaves through the community, where many had initially been skeptical of the allegations against the 66-year-old landscaper. It had been just a few weeks since McArthur's arrest, on January 18, for the murder of 49-year-old Andrew Kinsman, a beloved local resident and artist. Now, as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a dark and sinister web of deceit that would ultimately claim the lives of 8 men. As the police dug up the planters, they found the skeletal remains of Salim Eason, 44, and Abdul Safaizi, 42, both of whom had been reported missing in the months leading up to McArthur's arrest. It was later revealed that McArthur had been using his landscaping business as a ruse to target vulnerable men, often using social media to lure them into relationships. Once he had gained their trust, he would strangle them, often in the homes of his clients, and then dispose of their bodies in planters or other hidden locations. As the investigation continued, police discovered a series of cryptic messages and emails exchanged between McArthur and his victims, which would later serve as key evidence in his trial. McArthur's own words, written in a journal, also revealed a twisted and disturbing mindset, where he referred to his victims as toys and described his method of killing as a way to get rid of them. In the months that followed, McArthur's trial would captivate the nation, with many of his victims' families in attendance to hear the details of their loved ones' final days. As the evidence mounted against him, McArthur's defense team would argue that their client was not guilty by reason of insanity, but the prosecution would counter that McArthur had carefully planned and executed each of his crimes, leaving no room for doubt. In the end, it was the jury's verdict that would seal McArthur's fate, guilty on all 8 counts of first-degree murder. As he was led away in handcuffs, the families of his victims would finally find some measure of justice, but the wounds of their loss would never fully heal. The case would serve as a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows, and the importance of vigilance in protecting the most vulnerable members of our society. Bruce McArthur, a 66-year-old Toronto landscaper, had been using a fake identity, Red Velvet Cake Man, to lure gay men on dating apps, promising them a night of romance and passion. But for these 8 victims, their encounter with McArthur would be their last. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that McArthur was not just a serial killer, but a master manipulator who had been targeting Toronto's gay community for years. Victim Salim Eason, 44, was the first to go missing, reported missing by his friends in January 2017. Eason's disappearance sparked a police investigation, but it would be months before his body was discovered in a ravine behind McArthur's home in Midtown Toronto. Further investigation revealed that McArthur had been using his landscaping business as a front to meet his victims, often taking them to his home, where he would drug and kill them. The victims, all gay men in their 40s and 50s, had been lured to McArthur's home through online dating sites, including Grindr and Scruff. In the months that followed, the police discovered the bodies of 6 more men, all matching the profile of McArthur's victims. The victims were identified as Andrew Kinsman, 49, Majid Kayhan, 58, Sarush Mahmoodi, 50, Dean Lizowick, 47, and Skandara Navaratnam, 40. As the investigation continued, police discovered a hidden room in McArthur's garage, where they found the remains of the 8 victims. The room was equipped with a makeshift torture chamber, complete with restraints and a soundproof ceiling. In the courtroom, McArthur's defense team attempted to paint him as a troubled man with a history of mental health issues, but the prosecution presented a damning case, highlighting McArthur's meticulous planning and manipulation of his victims. The jury ultimately delivered a guilty verdict, and McArthur was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The police investigation began with the disappearance of Andrew Kinsman, a 32-year-old man who had been last seen leaving a bar in Toronto's gay village. Detective Hankid Singer, a seasoned investigator with the Toronto Police Service, was assigned to the case. He quickly discovered that Kinsman had been using a dating app, where he had matched with a man who called himself Red Velvet Cake Man. McArthur's alibi for the night of Kinsman's disappearance was shaky at best, and the police began to suspect that they had their man. However, the investigation hit a snag when MacArthur's lawyer claimed that his client was too old and frail to be capable of such heinous crimes. The police had to rely on circumstantial evidence, including a suspicious email sent by MacArthur to one of his victims, which hinted at a twisted game of cat and mouse. As the investigation dragged on, the police began to suspect that MacArthur was not working alone, but they had no concrete evidence to back up their claims. The breakthrough came in February 2018, when police discovered a hidden compartment in MacArthur's garage, containing a cryptic note with a list of names and addresses. The note was a chilling reminder of MacArthur's true intentions, and the police finally had the evidence they needed to arrest him. On February 16, 2018, MacArthur was taken into custody, and his world came crashing down around him. As the police searched MacArthur's homes and offices, they discovered 8 planters, each containing a human body. The victims had been buried in the planters, which had been left in the homes of MacArthur's clients, who had no idea what they were harboring. The police were horrified by the sheer scale of MacArthur's crimes and the fact that he had been using his fake identity to lure victims for years. In the months that followed, MacArthur was charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder. His trial was a grueling and disturbing affair, with the court hearing details of MacArthur's twisted games and his manipulation of his victims. On January 7, 2020, MacArthur was found guilty of all 8 counts of murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. As the news of MacArthur's conviction spread, the LGBTQ+ community in Toronto breathed a sigh of relief. The case had been a dark reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows, but it had also been a testament to the strength and resilience of the community. Follow Texas Case Archive for more true crime,